Namaste. Welcome to the teachings of Sacred Joy. So, as I explained earlier, I will be sharing with you some teachings that have profoundly helped me, that still do. They are like friends, like companions that can truly help me or anyone who can hear the truth within those teachings to feel that loving presence, that loving and caring kindness that is always supporting us, no matter what, through our human experience. So every day, or at least recently, I opened a page of the book that I've shared with you earlier, Emmanuel's book, Emmanuel for Living Comfortably in the Cosmos. So as I explained earlier, I'll be sharing as well some parts of my book, but right now I feel that some other teachings can also be helpful to again remind us of the commonality of wisdom of joy, or wisdom of love, or wisdom of source energy. They're all the same with different words. So here it goes. What are we really afraid of? What are we really afraid of? Now, Emmanuel answers, you fear humiliation. You fear humiliation, which can be another word for shame. That's what we fear. We fear shame. You fear to be wrong, which could be seen also as a fear of guilt. You fear that if your knowing is brought into your human experience, it will dissolve. You fear that if your knowing is brought into your human experience, it will dissolve. You fear to trust truth. You fear to love in an imperfect world. You fear to love in an imperfect world. You can allay fear through prayer, through meditation, through clear thinking. Again, you can allay fear, which means you can dissolve fear through prayer, through meditation, through clear thinking. Try to accept your areas of ignorance and reluctance as the parent accepts the unreasonableness of the child, as the parent accepts unreasonableness of the child. Understand what this darkness is saying. Understand what this darkness is saying. By accepting that erroneous thought process, into your own being, you bring it under your roof and are able to alter it to the light. By accepting that erroneous thought process into your own being, you bring it under your roof and are able to alter it to the light. Listen to your fear with a wise ear. What are you afraid of in life? What are you afraid of in life? What are you afraid of in yourself? You must challenge fear and ask it what it means to say. You must challenge fear and ask it what it means to say. As you go into the fear with eyes open, heart open, and courage flowing freely, you will see that fear is only an empty room. You will see that fear is only an empty room. Fear is only as strong as your avoidance of it. Powerful. Fear is only as strong as your avoidance of it. The greater your reluctance to see the fear, the greater your reluctance to see the fear, to accept it and embrace it, the more power you allow it. Powerful, powerful, powerful quote. Let me read that again. The greater your reluctance to see the fear, the greater your reluctance to see the fear, to accept it, to embrace it, the more power you allow it. The more power you allow it. Very powerful. Fear is the unknown. It is imagination. It is not reality. There is nothing to fear in the universe. There is nothing to fear in the universe. I will skip a bit of it. It is not a matter of destroying fear, but of knowing its nature. It is not a matter of destroying fear, but knowing its nature. Again, you will not fight fear with more fear. You will not fight darkness with more darkness. The only way to remove the darkness is to ignite the light. The only way to remove the fear is to ignite your trust. So, it is not a matter of destroying fear, but of knowing its nature and of seeing it as a less powerful force than the power of love. Or you could say the power of joy, which is one and the same thing. So, fear is a trick, a sham, a sleight of hand. It is illusion. The masters, magicians, are heavily at work in your world. The master magicians are heavily at work in your world. Demand to see up the slave, behind the back and underneath the table. Expose the magician for what he is, or what she is, or what it is. The magician of fear is a humbug. The magician of fear is a humbug. So, many of those words are self-explanatory. What I would add is that, again, in my own spiritual practice, what I can feel and know is that fear can be looked at as a filter through which or from which we actually perceive reality. And that is why in my book I quote this quote that came through me, is that fear is simply a distortion of energy. Why? Because everything is energy. Everything is energy. Everything in our universe is vibrating energy. You can speak to any physicist, they will confirm this to you. Our perception of it make it seem that it is a semi-solid world. But if you would have that giant microscope, or at some point maybe science will come up with those glasses that will help us see through or see the dance of molecules, the dance of atoms, the dance of protons and neutrons and nucleons that keep twirling and dancing all the time, because that's truly what it is. That's truly what it is. With the atoms, and the neutrons and the protons, that's truly constantly that with those electrons that keeps circling around basically with the atom. So in other words, we are being told as we come through this plane, through this earth plane, that there are certain rules, there are certain obligations and conditioning that is very rarely questioned, because once we're born, we believe everything that are being told to us by our parents, who themselves got it from their own parents and from their own parents and from their own parents. So the practice, the spiritual practice, the spiritual awakening is to wake up from that conditioning, is to see that conditioning for what it is. And a big chunk of that conditioning is based on fear. And what Emmanuel says here in the teaching is that fear is an illusion. Another way to say it is that fear is a distorted perception of reality. Because if you would have that giant microscope, or that giant that glasses, that pair of glasses that would enable you to have that extremely powerful ability to see the dance of energy, you would not perceive objects as you would now. You would even see, if you would look at your hands, if you would look at your body, you would see this amazing dance of molecules. And the question would be, what or how would you feel if you would constantly see that dance of energy? What would be your emotions? What would be your feelings? So, fear, and that's a paradox. The only thing to fear is fear itself. And someone said that. I can't recall who said that, but the only thing to fear is fear itself. Because as Emmanuel says, once you confront or face the fear, and that is very, very important, to come to that realization in your spiritual practice, that facing your fear, going through the fear, walking through the fear, is essential to know in your heart that it is pure illusion. Which is why, in my own experience as a gay man, I know that speaking about my life, speaking about my own life experience and life story, and being as open and as authentic as I've been, or at least attempting to, it has been challenging, and of course it triggered a lot of fear. Speaking as well of my own sexual preference and so forth. Of course, this created a lot of fear to disclose all those parts of my life. And yet, I know within that, this is purely illusion. This is purely illusion because, in essence, stating your truth by stating authentically what you're going through is so liberating and freeing, and realizing that you have done nothing wrong. And that's when you can also fear the first fear that Emmanuel mentioned, which is fear of humiliation, which is fear of shame. And our culture, especially the Western culture, has and still is instilling so much shame and guilt within the psyche of the child, within the psyche of the teenager, and then later on in the adult, that it becomes so ingrained within our consciousness that we're not even aware that a lot of fear that we have are simply fear of shame, which is a fear of who you are, as Ileana put it, and fear of guilt, which is a fear of doing something, or the fear of what you've done. So once you can walk through that fear, once you can transcend that fear, then can you know within your heart that it is purely illusion. And as Emmanuel says, it is an empty room. It is simply an empty room. It is purely illusion. In order for you to experience it and to know it within, you have to walk through it. You need to walk through that shame. You need to walk through that fear. And to take recent examples, I know as well that the last year, as I went through the finishing of my book and the putting of it and so forth, the ability to really bring it into form also triggered, of course, additional fear. And I would say that the fear, one of the fear that was and that there's still some remnants of it, if you will, is not only one could say the fear of shame to some extent. It is still there, as well as the fear of trust, which is doubt. Fearing your own trust, fearing what your intuition, what that voice tells you, is in fact, which is doubt, is another way to put it is to actually realize that it is a fear of trusting your true nature, trusting your true power. So, thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and again, if you like this video, please share on YouTube, Google+, Twitter, well, maybe not Twitter, but at least maybe the quote, or maybe any sort of media, and please subscribe. That would be great. And I salute your joy essence. Namaste. Thank you.